In episode 2, Abby and her crew wake up the next day in this mountain house, and they're able to see Jackson from afar. They didn't realize when they arrived at night how fortified Jackson is, and a lot of the group is worried. Owen breaks down how difficult it is just to find Joel. The fact that they're going to need to penetrate a giant fence that is well fortified, that has guards roaming outside, and even then, if they're able to get into Jackson, they don't know where Joel is. But he can also tell from Abby's face that she didn't come all this way to just turn around and go the opposite direction. So he tells her, you know what, I got a plan cooking, I just need to put it together. Give me some time. And she says, great, well, I'll buy you some time. I'll go on patrol. I'll be back in a little bit. And when Abby leaves to go on patrol, the rest of the group, which includes Mel, who seems to be the medic, Manny, and Nora, they walk up to Owen and they're like, hey, you really do have a plan? And he says, yeah, my plan is to convince her to go back to Seattle. Because if anybody dies up here, it's going to be us. Now, over at Jackson, they're just waking up for the day, much like Abby and her crew. For Ellie, she wakes up to a knock at the door from Jesse, who lets her know that they're going on 8 a.m. patrol. She's not too happy about it at first, but then she remembers what happened the previous night with her and Dina, and the fact that Dina and Jesse used to be a thing. It gets a little awkward, but Jesse says, yeah, you know what, don't worry about it, it's fine, I don't really care. As they make their way through the town, though, it becomes clear to Ellie that something's going on. It's as if they're getting ready for battle. Jesse lets her know that the town is now on high alert. That's because a group went out and they discovered a bunch of frozen infected, but then a few of them popped out underneath the frozen infected, about 30 of them. This patrol came back and let those that were in charge know about the situation, and then people went out and handled it. But now it seems the infected are using their own dead bodies as insulation. And Lord only knows how many other infected are underneath. It could only be 10, but it could also be thousands. So for the moment, Jackson is on high alert. He also tells her that you add in the fact that someone told a ghost story about infected who are really, really smart, and, well, it's got the town a little spooked. And Ellie, who is barely awake at this point, annoyed, tells him, you know what, I'm just going to do my patrol with Joel if that's all right. And he says, no, it's not all right, because that's the one person you've been avoiding like the plague. She shoots back, well, we're better now, all right? And he asks her, since when? I mean, as of last night. But she cuts him off and starts cursing him out, telling him to stop talking, but also realizing that she probably should explain herself a little bit. And she tells him, yeah, my relationship with Joel is complicated, and to the outside, it probably looks like we're constantly fighting. And you know what? It has been bad, but I'm still me, he's still Joel, and nothing's ever going to change that. So you can all stop talking about us and worrying about us. Jesse asks her, so you two hash it out? But then he quickly realizes that she doesn't want to talk about it. And she once again reiterates that she's going to go on patrol with Joel, but Jesse says, nah, he already left with Dina. He just didn't want to wake you. And by the way, Maria wants to talk to you, and no, I don't know what it's about. So they go to find Maria, and she's in one of the restaurants, but the restaurant is all looking at Tommy, who's making an announcement on what to do in case of an emergency. Yeah, it's just a drill, but he has to drill into these people exactly what they're supposed to do in case something happens. Once Tommy is done giving his speech, Maria walks Ellie and Jesse over to grab some food before they go out on patrol, but in reality, it's to talk to Seth, the guy who said that derogatory term the previous night to Ellie. And as soon as Ellie sees him, she wants nothing to do with him, but Maria makes her stay and listen to Seth's apology, which does seem sincere. But Ellie's got so much teen angst, her teen angst has a body count, and add Seth to that list. She doesn't seem to accept the apology. She grabs a sandwich, and she leaves with Jesse to go on patrol. The thing is, as the day goes on, the weather in Jackson is getting worse and worse. It's causing issues with the communication system. They're having trouble getting the radio signal far away, and Tommy gives the order to call everybody back to Jackson. For Ellie and Jesse, they're not going to be able to make it back to Jackson. They're just going to hunker down, and Jesse knows a place. It's an old convenience store that Eugene, his first patrol partner, showed him. But this isn't just any convenience store. It's where Eugene used to grow weed. At first, when Ellie asks Jesse about the weed, and he says Eugene's name, it gets awkward. You can tell that name just spooks Ellie right away. Walking around, though, she notices a Firefly tag, and it's got Eugene's name, and she didn't know Eugene was a reformed Firefly. And Jesse says, yeah, he was, at the very beginning, but He said he just got tired of killing people. Ellie doesn't say much, but you do get more insight as to what happened between Eugene and Joel. And it seems like whatever did happen, I mean, obviously Joel killed Eugene, nobody blames Joel for it. Everybody looks at it as something that Joel had to do. Eugene was a former Vietnam War vet who survived all of that, and something happened. And as Jesse puts it, Joel had no choice. But for Ellie, who has an opinion on everything, this one topic she stays quiet about. While those two hunker down, the storm hasn't hit Joel and Dina quite yet. They're on patrol, they're just making their way, but they are unaware of the fact that they are being watched and stalked by Abby. From a mountain ridge, she saw the two of them, and while she didn't know that it was Joel, she started to follow them. Unfortunately, she lost her footing, went down a cliff, and as she got her bearings together, she realized that she was surrounded by a bunch of frozen infected. But that situation that Jesse laid out to Ellie about the frozen infected using themselves as insulation, that ends up happening again. Because as Abby stands around, one by one, infected start crawling out of the snow. Abby has no choice but to run for her life as she's chased down by not just tens, but hundreds of infected. She's able to make her way to a wall and climb over it, so for the time being, she's good. But as she tries to find her way inside the building, the chain link fence that is separating her from the infected starts giving way, and one of the infected is able to get in. This infected attacks Abby, and it seems like it's only a matter of seconds before Abby is bit until she's saved by Joel. She's shocked that anybody was there to save her in that moment, but she's even more surprised when they get inside the building and she hears Dina say Joel's name. I mean, here's the guy she's been looking for, and he just saved her life, but, she found him. You can tell that Abby is having trouble processing all of this, as Joel just questions if she's all right, if she's bit. And for Joel and Dina, it's just a matter of getting out of there because they know it's only a matter of time before that infected busts the door. Joel is trying to figure out exactly where they can go, and that's when Abby says, the mountain house. I mean, I've got friends there, they've got weapons. And with no other choice, they decide, yeah, okay, we'll head out. They get out of that building just in the nick of time as the infected bust through and continue to chase them down. And they're well on their heels. I mean, the horses are barely keeping up. But then something weird happens. The infected just bang a left. It's as if they got a signal to just let those two go, and they change targets. And they change targets to Jackson. Now, over at Jackson, most of the community is just busy doing their jobs. And that includes fixing those pipes. It's at this moment where one guy who is fixing the pipe notices there is something weird about those weeds. They're moving. But he doesn't have time to alert anybody because a bell goes off. A bell that warns everybody in Jackson to hunker down, take your positions, danger is approaching. For Tommy, he's one of the leaders of this. I mean, he's the guy that everybody's looking at to fortify Jackson. So everybody grabs their weapons, they take their positions, and they get ready for this horde of infected to attack. One of the ways they avoid getting overrun is by throwing barrels of gasoline down, shooting it, and then lighting that gasoline on fire. It causes a giant explosion, it kills a ton of infected, and at first, it seems like Tommy and the rest of Jackson are winning this war. Until once again, the infected get some sort of signal to just bang a left. It's super odd behavior, and that's when Tommy realizes they're not just going to attack this one area, they're going to find a weak point in our fence, and they're going to bust through, and that's exactly what happens. Now, Tommy is able to alert a lot of people to this, so they are able to prepare, but one of the infected that's able to get in is a bloater. Tommy, armed up with a flamethrower, is on the ground. Most of the residents of Jackson are on the second level of buildings as they can have the high ground and just pick off infected one by one. Tommy's actually in the streets. And when he sees the bloater start to make their way towards his wife, he's able to distract the bloater and draw them into an alley. Now, this wasn't the plan originally, but Tommy just kind of puts his finger on that trigger of the flamethrower and hopes for the best, and it does end up working. I mean, in the nick of time, the bloater ends up dropping right in front of him. Tommy then makes his way out into the alley and continues fighting the rest of the infected that are still making their way in and attacking the residents. Now, as Jackson is fighting for their lives, Joel, Dina, and Abby from a mountain ridge can see in the distance that Jackson is under attack, and Joel wants to go and help. Abby can tell she needs to do something before she lets this guy just go back to his community, so she says, no, don't. I mean, we're so close to the mountain house, and my group has weapons. They can grab them, and we can all head there. And this works. Instead of going back to Jackson, Joel and Dina head to this mountain house, and they arrive. And for Owen and his gang, they're thrilled to see Abby back because they were worried about her. She was gone a long time. For Mel, the medic, she starts tending to Dina, who's got a little bit of frostbite. And Dina notices that Mel has this backpack with the letters WLF and a wolf logo. And she asks her, who are you guys? But she doesn't get an answer because Joel is frantically trying to get in touch with Jackson, but he's unable to. And as he tells the group, all right, you guys got 3 minutes, grab your weapons, let's get ready to go, Abby introduces everybody to her new friends. At first she says, yeah, the girl, that's Dina. This guy, he's Joel. That's when Manny grabs Dina and puts a gun to her head. Suddenly, Joel isn't worried about Jackson. He's worried about Dina, and he puts his hands up. At first, he thinks they're just being robbed. That's it, that these are raiders. But Abby laughs and says, do we look like raiders? No, we're not raiders. Abby orders Mel to knock out Dina using just a liquid. It'll knock her out for an hour. And then Abby starts having a conversation with Joel. She tells him, you answer this honestly and we'll let her live, meaning Dina. She asks him, when was the last time you saw the fireflies? And he's honest and says, Salt Lake. He's still a little perplexed and he says, I saved your life. And that's when Abby grabs a shotgun, shoots his kneecap, and says, what life? This is something that Abby's been waiting 5 years to do, and she is reveling in it. She walks over to Joel and she gets close to him and reveals who she is. She starts out by asking him, did you even count how many people you killed that day? Because you killed 18. You killed 17 soldiers and 1 doctor, and that doctor was my dad. And the nurses say, you didn't even think about him. I mean, you just shot him in the head and walked right by him. And Joel isn't defending his actions. He's not even saying a word. He, at this point, has accepted the fact that he's probably going to die here. She goes on to explain that she joined a militia in Seattle that trained them to follow a code. You don't kill somebody that can't defend themselves, but she's going to let that code slide for the time being. She then walks over to a golf bag, grabs what looks like an 8-iron, I'm not sure, and she starts beating the crap out of Joel. This continues. I mean, Abby just starts pummeling Joel with the golf club with her fists. Even for her own group, they're kind of mortified. They realize that this is what they've been searching 5 years for, but Abby's taking it to another level. Even Owen says, Abby, come on, just end it. But that's when they're joined by an unwanted guest. Because Jesse and Ellie, as they were hunkered down, got word that Joel and Dina hadn't checked in. They knew where Joel and Dina were headed, so they decided to separate, cover the area, and meet at that one location. Hopefully they would find the group. For Ellie, she didn't find Joel or Dina, but she found their horses at the cabin. And when she headed in, she heard some kind of commotion. When she opened the door, she saw that somebody was pummeling Joel, but before she could get a shot off, she was taken down and kind of apprehended. Ellie screams at Joel to get up, but Joel is a bloody pulp. I mean, he's barely surviving. He's clinging to life, but Ellie continues to yell, Joel, get up. And that's when Abby does, in fact, put an end to it. She picks up the broken golf club with its jagged edge, and she plunges it into Joel's skull, and Ellie screams. Ellie is forced to watch Abby murder the guy that she looked at as a father figure. And as Abby and her group leave, Ellie tells Abby, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill all of you. For Abby and her group, they head out. They got what they came for, and it seems like they're probably going to go back to Seattle, to that militia group. For Ellie, she has to wait for Dina to wake up. They are found by Jesse, and Dina, Jesse, and Ellie, they wrap up Joel's body, and they start taking it back to Jackson, where while it took a ton of damage and there were a lot of casualties, Jackson did in fact come out on top.
Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.